Welcome back. It's Disclosure Day in D.C. The truth is out there, and today, out in the open. After the White House started its rollout of the long-awaited UFO and extraterrestrial life files, officials telling Fox it was this question from our very own Peter Doocy that led us here.
On May 8th, 2026, in an unprecedented move, the U.S. government released a massive trove of previously classified records to the public. 162 files, ranging from 1940s FBI reports to startling photographs taken by Apollo astronauts on the surface of the moon, are now completely declassified. This is not a fringe conspiracy. This is documented, institutional history. Today we are opening the vault. We will examine the data, the physics, and the profound human mystery of what exactly is sharing our skies. The United States Department of War quietly published a new digital archive known as the Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, UAP encounters, or the Pursu portal. This database immediately brought the global aerospace and intelligence communities to a standstill. Initiated by President Donald J. Trump's February 19th directive to hunt down and declassify government files connected to non-human intelligence, extraterrestrial life. Supported by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence to find, review, declassify, and publicly release unresolved UAP-related records and historical documents held across the federal government, the Department of War opened the vault. The sheer magnitude of this release cannot be overstated. We are witnessing the most powerful, heavily funded military and intelligence apparatus in human history, officially admitting a fundamental, ongoing vulnerability in our airspace. Release 01 of the Pursu archive is a sprawling, multi-agency labyrinth of data. It contains an unfiltered mix of PDFs, tactical videos, satellite images, internal cables, and interview transcripts sourced from the FBI, NASA, the Department of State, and the Department of War itself. What makes this release truly paradigm-shifting is not just the volume of the files, but the staggering timeline they cover. Release 1 stretches from old FBI flying disc files since the 1940s and Apollo-era NASA material to recent military and intelligence reports from 2023, 2025, and 2026. In other words, this is not only a historical archive, it also points toward recent unresolved UAP cases that the government still cannot publicly explain. All 162 specific, meticulously documented files are classified as unresolved cases. So, how do you understand the term unresolved? For the public, it might imply a lack of information, but in the military term, it means something entirely different and infinitely more chilling. Unresolved means that a phenomenon was simultaneously tracked by the most advanced, multi-billion-dollar sensor networks on the planet. The Department of War has already announced that Pursu will be a rolling release program, meaning new tranches of declassified intelligence will drop every few weeks as the backlog is cleared. With Release 01, the conversation surrounding UFOs has been permanently severed from the stigmatized fringe swamps of tabloid conspiracy. The mystery has crossed the Rubicon. By releasing radar telemetry, optical data, and multi-sensor military documentation, the United States government has officially placed this anomaly squarely onto the desks of astrophysicists and congressional oversight committees. We have all seen the polished, triumphant PR packages NASA broadcast to the world, but buried within the Pentagon's new archive are the raw, unredacted transcripts and original, high-resolution photographs of highly trained test pilots confronting the unknown in the absolute isolation of deep space. The cracks in the official narrative begin right at the historic starting line. Included in the release is the formerly classified July 1969 Apollo 11 crew debriefing. In this document, astronaut Buzz Aldrin describes making 3 distinctly unusual observations while navigating the lunar environment, anomalies that were carefully scrubbed from the public record for decades. But it was during the November 1969 Apollo 12 mission that the phenomena evolved from fleeting observations to undeniable photographic evidence. While the astronauts worked on the desolate gray expanse of the moon's surface, their cameras captured something entirely out of place. The newly released images reveal unidentified, oddly shaped lights appearing in the pitch-black lunar sky. In one particularly striking photograph, analysts have now verified a total of 5 distinct anomalous objects hovering above the lunar horizon. The most chilling records, however, come from NASA's final lunar mission, Apollo 17. The Pursue database includes a meticulously detailed, 16-page transcript of the crew reporting multiple unidentified objects pacing their spacecraft. Looking out of their small, reinforced windows into the endless void, the astronauts described a scene that defies conventional aerospace understanding. Moments later, the crew describes witnessing sparks erupting in the vacuum of space, comparing the dazzling, terrifying display to the 4th of July. Accompanying this transcript is a staggering photograph officially dated December 1972. Framed by the desolate lunar surface below, the image clearly shows 3 distinct, luminescent dots holding a perfect rigid triangular formation. Prominent astrophysicists, such as Harvard's Dr. Avi Loeb, offers a vital, scientifically grounded perspective on these lunar anomalies. The moon, unlike Earth, has no atmosphere. When a meteor strikes the lunar surface, it doesn't burn up in a fiery streak across the sky. Instead, the kinetic energy of the impact creates a brief, intense flash of light directly on the surface. Scientifically speaking, a barrage of micrometeors impacting the lunar dust could easily explain the sparks and flashes of light that the Apollo 17 crew likened to fireworks. However, this is where the academic explanations hit a wall and the mystery violently reasserts itself. A meteor impact is a singular, chaotic burst of kinetic energy. It does not explain a photograph of 5 distinctly shaped lights maintaining altitude over the Apollo 12 landing site. It certainly cannot account for 3 distinct dots holding a rigid geometric triangular formation over the lunar surface in December 1972. That kind of structural integrity implies intent. It implies intelligent design. The human element of these lunar files is perhaps the heaviest burden to process. These astronauts were celebrated as global heroes, yet they were bound by the ironclad oaths of national security. They were forced to carry the psychological weight of what they saw in the dark, watching the rest of the world look up at the moon, completely unaware of the ghosts hiding in its orbit. While the Apollo files provide the historical bedrock for this mystery, the Pursue portal violently pulls the viewer into the modern era, dropping us directly into high-stakes, terrifying military airspace incursions. Right now, we're looking at ultra-precise infrared footage captured by billions of dollars worth of United States military sensors deployed around the globe. This release pulls back the curtain on a series of modern encounters involving bizarre, geometrically impossible objects harassing our military with total impunity. It includes a 2024 footage captured over the United Arab Emirates. As you can see, a state-of-the-art drone tracked an object described in the official reports as an inverted teardrop. The footage shows it suspended perfectly still in the sky, completely unaffected by the atmospheric drag around it. Then, the archive shifts to the Mediterranean. Files detail an encounter off the coast of Greece, where a metallic, perfectly spherical object was tracked flying dangerously close to the ocean's surface, mirroring the exact speed of the ships it was tailing. Perhaps most alarming is the telemetry data from the Indo-Pacific Command, detailing a massive object tracked over the East China Sea. According to the declassified radar data, this object executed maneuvers that made a mockery of our most advanced fighter jets. Veteran fighter pilots like Ryan Graves, who has testified about his squadron seeing anomalous objects on a near-daily basis off the eastern seaboard, or Alex Dietrich, who was thrust into the center of the infamous 2004 Nimitz carrier strike group encounter. These are not people prone to hallucination, panic, or embellishment. They are the world's most highly trained aviators. Their very lives depend on their ability to instantly, logically, and accurately identify other aircraft. But the physics detailed in these newly released videos baffle even them. The documents meticulously log flight characteristics that should be entirely impossible. We are seeing objects maintaining stationary hovering positions in the middle of 130-knot, hurricane-force winds without drifting an inch. We are seeing sudden, hypersonic acceleration, where an object goes from 0 to several times the speed of sound in a fraction of a second, all without producing a sonic boom, and crucially, without any detectable heat signature or exhaust plume on infrared cameras. Under our current working models of physics, the G-forces generated by that kind of sudden acceleration would instantly crush a human pilot and tear apart any known earthly material like wet tissue paper. There are no wings, there are no rotors, there are no visible flight control surfaces. These objects are moving in ways our current understanding of physics simply cannot explain. When confronted with infrared footage of metallic spheres defying gravity, the human imagination instinctively wanders out into the cosmos. It is a natural, almost comforting leap to assume these objects belong to a civilization thousands of light years away. But within the sterile, windowless briefing rooms of the Pentagon, intelligence analysts are forced to tackle a much more grounded and, frankly, much more terrifying explanation. What if these objects are not from another world? What if they were built right here on Earth? As we dig deeper into the Pursue portal files, a significant and heavily redacted portion of the archive pivots the mystery away from science fiction and directly into the tense, high-stakes realm of global geopolitics. We have to ask the uncomfortable question: could these physics-defying UFOs actually be next-generation drone technology developed by Russia or China? In the normal arc of human engineering, progress is iterative. We went from propeller planes to early jets to supersonic stealth fighters over the course of a century. A leapfrog occurs when a nation secretly develops a technology so profoundly advanced that it completely bypasses the current developmental paradigm. It would be the equivalent of bringing a nuclear submarine to the Battle of Waterloo. If a foreign adversary has secretly mastered the propulsion systems we see in these videos, they haven't just beaten the United States military. They have rendered its entire trillion-dollar arsenal obsolete overnight. This earthly explanation is heavily supported by prominent scientific skeptics. Take Dr. Seth Shostak, the senior astronomer at the SETI Institute, the organization literally dedicated to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Shostak has long argued that if an extraterrestrial presence were visiting Earth, the evidence would be ubiquitous. It would not be neatly contained within classified military files. Amateur astronomers, civilian radar networks, and thousands of commercial airline pilots would be picking them up constantly. Yet, the data in the Pursue release shows these anomalous objects taking a hyper-specific interest in United States carrier strike groups, nuclear testing facilities, and restricted military airspace. That behavior doesn't suggest a benevolent alien race exploring a new biosphere. It suggests human intelligence gathering. It looks exactly like an adversary quietly mapping our defenses and testing our response times. If this hypothesis is true, it represents an intelligence failure of apocalyptic proportions. It means that, while the United States was spending decades focused on counterinsurgency and traditional aerospace superiority, an adversary quietly unlocked the next branch of physics. Frame this as a new, silent Cold War. The declassified files hint at a frantic, desperate scramble behind the scenes of the American defense apparatus. The effort to retrieve, understand, and reverse engineer these unidentified objects is no longer a fringe conspiracy whispered about on the internet. The memos suggest it is being treated internally with the urgency and secrecy of a modern-day Manhattan Project. The race is on, not to make peaceful contact with the stars, but to ensure that whoever currently owns our skies isn't preparing to conquer the ground below. 80 years of cover-up. This database doesn't just show us what is operating in our skies today. It maps a dark, Byzantine timeline of government secrecy and psychological warfare waged against the American public. The historical documents included in this first tranche take us all the way back to the dawn of the Cold War. Unsealed FBI memos dating back to 1947 detail high-level government panic over flying discs and strange aerial incursions. These heavily aged typewritten pages prove, unequivocally, that the United States government has been actively, obsessively monitoring this phenomenon for nearly 8 decades. All the while, public affairs officers looked the American people in the eye and told them they were seeing weather balloons, swamp gas, and temperature inversions. The fact that we are reading these 162 files today is a testament to a massive psychological and institutional shift. The dam of stigma didn't break on its own. It was shattered by the immense bravery of military and intelligence whistleblowers who finally decided that the truth was worth the risk. Their testimonies galvanized a bipartisan coalition of lawmakers who realized that unelected, deeply siloed intelligence agencies were operating completely outside the bounds of congressional oversight. You would see this wasn't a sudden act of goodwill or transparency from the government. These black budget programs operate with virtually no external oversight, and they fought tooth and nail to keep this vault sealed. Lawmakers relied heavily on the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, aggressively using it to legally mandate the National Archives to compile, review, and declassify these UAP records. It is a victory built on the backs of military whistleblowers who risked their careers and sometimes their freedom to force the Pentagon's hand. The government didn't offer this truth to the public. The public and their representatives pried it loose. But even in this moment of historic vindication, the Pursue files remind us of the massive fight still ahead. When you actually scroll through the database, a chilling pattern emerges. Out of the 162 files released, over 100 still contain heavy, aggressive redactions. Pages upon pages are obscured by thick black marker, hiding vital data points, sensor calibrations, locations, and ultimate conclusions. The government has finally cracked the vault door open, but the deeply entrenched intelligence community is still standing on the other side, leaning all of their weight against it. The battle for total transparency is not over. It has merely stepped out of the shadows and into the glaring light of the public arena. The dam has finally broken, and the water is rushing in. As the public and the scientific community scramble to digest these 162 files, Congress has made it explicitly clear that they will not be satisfied with a heavily redacted opening act. Behind closed doors, lawmakers are actively demanding the declassification of the highly anticipated 46 whistleblower videos. According to intelligence insiders who have testified under oath, this mythical collection does not consist of grainy, ambiguous infrared dots. They are reportedly high-definition, unedited, close-range visual recordings that provide absolute, undeniable proof of the anomalous nature of these crafts. The suspense surrounding these upcoming batches is palpable. The Pentagon, legally cornered by the National Defense Authorization Act, has stubbornly maintained its official stance. These objects remain entirely unresolved. It is a carefully calculated legal word. They are not confirming non-human intelligence, but crucially, they are no longer claiming these objects belong to us, or that they obey our laws of physics. This forces us to end our investigation on an awe-inspiring, profoundly philosophical note. Humanity is standing at the precipice of the greatest paradigm shift since we realize the Earth orbits the Sun. We are faced with two equally staggering realities. Either a foreign adversary has achieved a technological leapfrog so profound that it essentially makes them the undisputed masters of the globe, or humanity is arriving at a blind date of interstellar proportions. Regardless of which hypothesis proves true, our understanding of our place in the universe is fundamentally shifting. For thousands of years, humans have looked up at the stars, gazing into the vast darkness, and asked, "Are we alone?" We now know that the answer to that question, the absolute truth of our cosmic reality, is no longer an abstract concept relegated to philosophers, stargazers, and science fiction writers. It is not out there in the ether. It is terrestrial. It is currently sitting on government hard drives, heavily encrypted, just waiting to be decrypted. The release of these 162 files marks the definitive end of an era of denial, but it is only the very beginning of our search for the truth. We now possess undeniable, data-backed proof that phenomena operating far beyond the limits of human engineering are traversing our skies and our oceans with total impunity. This is no longer a question of belief. It is a question of science, of physics, and of our place in the cosmic hierarchy. The universe just got exponentially more complicated and infinitely more fascinating. Stay curious.